Hello everyone. So today we are going to be discussing exactly how much it costs to compete in a bodybuilding competition. So disclaimer, this is just what I personally spent on my very first competition. So there's definitely ways to spend less, there's definitely ways that you can spend more. So this is just what I personally spent on the first show. I just thought this would be a fun and informative way to enlighten anybody who is new to bodybuilding or new to competing, just to give you more of an idea of financially what you may be looking at if you do want to compete. I personally chose not to keep track of what I was spending as I went along. I knew it was going to be an investment, so I was just going to spend what I was going to spend, and I calculated it afterwards, and in my head I was like, oh, I probably spent like a couple $1,000s. I was pretty off. So let's break it down. So first off, probably the most costly thing is going to be a coach. I don't know anyone who competes and doesn't have a coach. Of course, this is going to be a huge range of prices because everyone has a different price. I personally pay my coach monthly, and that's an ongoing thing. So I just calculated the months that I was in prep, and I added that up to how much I spent specifically on the coaching for the amount of time I was in prep for just this first competition. And without discussing the specifics of the pricing, since that's not necessarily my business to be discussing, I'm just sharing my total that I spent for the first show. And that number was $1,900 for the coaching, and that's basically for the training and the nutrition portion of the coaching. Next we have the posing coach, which is separate than the training and nutrition. Again, without discussing anyone's specific pricing, the total that I spent on the total sessions that I had for my first competition was $500. The next was supplements. These are just supplements that my coach recommended that I take. A lot of these I was already taking just for myself and for my lifestyle, so I only calculated the amount that I spent on things that I wasn't already using, and that was $95. Next was the competition suit, and I spent $120 on the suit, which thankfully for the fit model division, which is what I compete in, the suits are way cheaper than bikini or any of the other divisions. Those are like minimum of $700. So I was very happy to only be spending $120 on this suit. And I did spend an extra $100 to expedite the shipping because I did want it 4 weeks out of my show, just so I had time to practice in it enough and get comfortable with wearing it. So I spent an extra $100 just to have that expedited. I also bought a jewelry package from that same company, so that included the earrings, the rings, and the bracelets, and that was a total of $50. I also bought a robe from them just to wear backstage, and that was $30. The next thing is the shoes, and I spent $120. That's the competition heels. Next will be everything specifically related to show day. So the show entry, you do pay an entry fee for every class that you are entering. So for my first competition, I did 2 different classes, so it was $200 per class, so it was a total of $400 for the show entry. And for the tan, I chose to just use the company who does the tanning on site, which I highly recommend. It just takes the stress out of it, and you already know that they're professional, know what they're doing. So I just used their company, and that was $150 for the tan package. I also used the same company on site for hair and makeup. I also highly recommend having someone else do your hair and makeup. Again, it takes the stress out of it. Stage makeup is very different than regular everyday makeup, and it's just better to have a professional do it. Same thing with hair. Hair is a lot easier to do on your own, or a lot of people are better at doing that on their own. But for myself, I just wanted to, again, take the stress out of it on my first competition day, so I just paid to have that done as well. They offered a package deal to get your hair and your makeup done. So that was $280. And the only thing here that I did save money on was nails, so manicure and pedicure. A lot of people don't know I actually have a nail license, so I was very capable of doing my nails by myself. So I decided to just do that on my own, save a couple $100 there. Honestly though, you don't have to be a professional to do your nails for competition day. As long as they're done and they look nice, that's not going to be a prominent thing that they're looking at on stage. As long as the nails look polished and nice, I don't really see a reason why you would have to get those done professionally. But you know, if that's something again that you want to just take the stress out and have a professional do it, go for it. The next thing was the hotel. This was a local competition for me, but I did choose to stay at the hotel venue just to already be there, because everything does start really early in the morning. So I just wanted to already be on the location and not have to stress about getting there on time. So one night at the hotel was $200. And the last thing, this isn't going to apply to everyone, it probably won't apply to most people, but it did apply to me, and that is childcare. So I'm a single mom, I don't have any family in town, so free childcare is non-existent for me. And anybody who does have kids knows how expensive nannies are, so paying for a nanny overnight and for a full day was going to be very expensive. So I chose to fly my mom out from a different state to come watch my baby for 24 hours. But again, that was way cheaper, and essentially she watched him for free, but I paid for her flight. So the flight was $300. And I'll also just add that I rounded up to the nearest dollar for these expenses, so I didn't add any of like the cents or anything like that, so it's just rounded up to the nearest dollar. So that is it for all the expenses. So that came out for my first show for a grand total of $4,230. And that was just for one show. And obviously there's things that you can reuse, like the suit, the heels, the jewelry, you can use those for multiple shows. Most of the expenses, you're going to have to pay those again for each competition that you do. If competing something that you plan on doing long term, you'll probably eventually be doing a show that requires traveling, so that will be an additional expense of a flight or any other form of transportation, but that didn't come into play here for my first competition because it was local. So that is it. That is my little breakdown of what I spent on my first competition. Again, this is just personal to me. That's what I personally spent. You're gonna see a wide range of expenses that people have, but hopefully that just gave someone some insight as to what the expenses may look like if this is something that you're planning on doing or wanting to do. The financial side of it is something to definitely think about. It's really good to budget. Again, like I said in the beginning, I didn't track it as I went along. Not that I necessarily recommend that. It's probably smarter to do it that way. I just hope that this was informational and helpful to someone. I'll definitely be back sharing more tips and more experiences that I continue to have as I go through this journey with competing in bodybuilding. So if this is something you like watching, hit subscribe, like this video, and I will see you in the next one.